Hi, you are listening to the Magic Hour. Today we're talking with plant medicine, shamanic healing, and life coach, the phenomenal Evelyn Viviana. She is the creator of In One Heart and hosts healing retreats and workshops around the world. Evelyn is here to share with us how she got into the mystical arts and give us the lowdown on plant medicine. Let's make some magic. Hey everybody, Shereen here. Welcome to the Magic Hour. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Magic Hour drops every Sunday for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at mylittlemagicsHop.com, our official sponsor. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed, Spotify, or iTunes. You can also follow me on Instagram at My Little Magic Shop and Facebook. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get to the show. Our guest today is shamanic healer, plant medicine extraordinaire, and In One Heart founder, Evelyn Viviana. Welcome, Evelyn. I'm so excited to have you as a guest.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. So for those of you guys don't know, I met Evelyn through some friends, and she is beyond magical. So I'm super excited to have her here today. So let's start from the beginning. Before you really started studying the mystical arts or shamanism or getting into plant medicine, what were you like before?
I was working 9 to 5. I was a paralegal actually in Manhattan by Wall Street, and I was doing that for about 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
I was just working a regular 9 to 5. I had a home, a family, raising the children, being a housewife, and just, doing that for a very, very long time.
Wow. And then what happened? Like, how do you go from like being being a paralegal to like, giving these mystical, magical, shamanic plant medicine ceremonies?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I always had that connection, I guess, with source and great spirit. And since I was born and raised in Peru, since I was a little girl, I always had that connection with like the rocks and the plants, and I would talk to them and I would hear them talk back to me and all that good stuff. So when I came to the United States as a little girl from Peru, I kind of like just had to block that out. I lived in a part of Peru that has the beach, and it's just very beautiful. Has a lot of like, it's like a resort like feel, plants and beach and trees and different colors of plants and flowers and whatnot. So what happened was that when I came here, I ended up in Brooklyn, New York, and it was a November in New York City. So you could just imagine how great it was.
That's terrible.
And then I had a hard time with the language and the school, and I was bullied a lot. And I realized that I couldn't just be this very airy anymore. I had to really just come back and really put up, I guess, walls at that moment in time. I didn't know what they were, but they were walls, right? To be strong, to not get bullied, to learn the language and whatnot. So I did that for a very, very long time. And then I got married young, and then I had my family and I had my kids. And I decided to, you know what, I need to just really focus on life and progress and whatnot, and live the American dream, which is buying, getting the man, getting a house, having the kids and whatnot. So I did that for a long while. And it was not until I started reading back the esoteric teachings of I started doing self-help books first. That's how I started with like Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements. I started working with Wayne Dyer and reading Deepak and Louis Hay. And through that self-healing modalities, I started discovering deeper truths of consciousness, of esoteric teaching. So I started reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So I went that route. And when I was reading all these books, all I heard from these sages and teachers were like, live in your heart, meditate. And I said to myself one day, I was like, you know what? Everybody keeps saying everywhere I go, meditate and live in your heart, which is great. So let me start meditating. And when I started meditating one day, and it's like everything came back to me. So when I opened my eyes, I was in my backyard, I remember, and I was sitting there, and I started going into meditation. And when I opened my eyes, I started sensing and feeling the trees looking at me,
Wow.
plants looking at me. So it kind of opened back that that part of me that had I have blocked or suppressed.
Mm.
And I was able to do a lot of self healing before all of that, and a lot of work on myself. And then I opened that can again of just being able to connect to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since that, I was like, wow, I like
Mm-hmm.
this is magical. This is amazing. I am actually sensing and hearing their messages, and I could speak to the wind, and I could speak to the sun, and I could hear the sun talking to me, and the wind whispering, and Mother Earth just really being alive. And then and that's how it all started. It started in that manner. And then I was listening to a podcast, actually. It was
Mm-hmm.
called Healing with the Masters at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in my kitchen, and I always listen to this podcast. And they will always interview like really amazing teachers. And at that moment in time, I listened to John Bolo Melchizedek, who was on, and he started talking about the heart space. And he was just talking, he was like, well, everybody talks about the heart space, but nobody tells you how to get inside your heart, how to get in the heart space. And he's like, and then it is a very interesting way, because you have to learn to raise your consciousness and your vibration to let your body become just energy, and so your spirit can go down and travel down your throat into the heart space, but it will not be going inside our regular third dimensional heart space. Since you're raising your vibration, the heart space that you're going to be entering to is going to be a higher dimensional heart space. Therefore, it's not going to be like, blood and the heart that you see in the third dimension. It will be a different heart space. It will be a higher vibrational heart space. And he's like, and that's where everything is: your Akashic records, your lifetimes, your life with other beings, everything is in there. And I was like, holy smokes, this is it.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. I ordered his book, I read it. It was The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. I read that part one, part two, and I dived into that, became a certified teacher. And I decided, connection with Mother Earth and higher spirit were like, do not work. You need to. And I thought I was going crazy, honestly, because I was like, oh my God, I have to pay the bills. I cannot just sleep. Everybody's thought, right? It's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that?
Yeah.
you know where's the money going to come from? So
Yeah.
I just listened to that voice. I listened to that heart space, and I went in and I took the workshop that he did, Drumbelow, and I studied with him, and then got certified in the School of Remembering, which I
Wow.
love, because it was called the School of Remembering, because everything that I teach or the workshop is nothing that you don't know. Everything's already inside your heart space. So everything is within. So it just gives you some tools to get inside for
Yeah.
you to be able to open that dimension, that essence of your divine being.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful. That's how I ended up. And ever since then, I took the workshop. I became certified, started teaching. I have taught over 100 workshops already. And then Mother Earth is like, you need to start doing spiritual journeys. And that's another, thing that I integrated into my work, because before I did all of that, I did do a lot of solo, I guess you can call them vision quests, but it
Mhm.
was all by myself. It was just spirit guiding me to do certain things by myself, so I
Mhm.
can get the downloads and the information I needed to to be where I'm at this present moment.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it's been magical ever. And then I quit my job, of course. I quit my job. I actually ended up divorced after
Wow.
20 years of marriage. I let go of that part of my self too. So that was probably one of the most difficult things I did. And yeah, it was like I had to practically destroy everything that I thought it was, or rebuild based on the mind, to just construct everything on transparency and based on my heart space. And sometimes, letting go of things that are not holding that space for you at that vibration anymore. It's some things that you have to let go of. So I did let go of a lot of things, a lot of friends. I
Mm.
mean, I didn't let them go. They just kind of like disappeared,
Yeah.
and then I just continue my path, and it's been beautiful. It's been, it's my highest call. It's my passion. I do it I love it. it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's beautiful work. And it's such a service to humanity. I mean, by seeing people's lives change over, within a couple of months of doing this work or doing these journeys, their life just has changed completely.
Wow.
And it's been very magical to see.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love so much that you shared about this heart space. I hadn't heard of heart space spoken about like that, which I mean, I guess now it makes sense that your company's called In One Heart. So I love that so much. Like like at first it's like, oh, I wonder why she came up with that name. And it seems like this idea of the heart space really, had a profound impact on you, and it's definitely leading your work and guiding your work. So that's so, so beautiful.
Yeah, I think I called it that because I figured that once people learn how to be in their heart space, if you're in your heart space and I'm in my heart space and we all are in one heart, we're just all really just one being, one consciousness.
Yeah.
So I believe that, if we're going through the ascension process or we're going into higher realms at this moment in time, I think that being in the heart space is one of the best things that we can do, because if we're manifesting from the heart space, where there's only love and oneness and peace and this unified feel, versus the mind where it's duality and polarity based, right? And letting go of this mind and coming back here, then our world will change if we all just manifest from this space.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, right? To help people let go of so much of the fears, of the negative thoughts, of their doubts, and then learning to come and letting their spirit travel down inside into their heart space where they can manifest from this space versus this space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you probably can't even manifest from this space so well, right?
Yeah, I mean, you will manifest this space and this space, but also like the way you manifest from this space, you can also manifest the negative thoughts and the fears, so it's a duality consciousness from here versus from here. From this space is a different consciousness. So that's why the teachings of the awakened illuminated heart was so important, because Jamalo did say that there was a kind of, this was like 7 years ago when I took and became a teacher. He said there's going to come a time on earth that you're going to be manifesting as you speak. You're going to be manifesting so rapidly, and this time is so important for people to live in their heart space, because they are going to be manifesting from, if they're going to be here, they're going to be manifesting the negative as well from this space. So it's so important to take this work out to the world, because there's going to come a time on earth that people are going to be manifest. They're going to think of apple and an apple's going to drop. They're going to think of this and things are going to be done. So it's not good for humanity to be in this space. It's better for them to be in this space. So that's when this work came in.
Doesn't that time feel like it's now? Like this year is insane.
Insane. It's insane. And people are manifesting rapidly. I mean, I speak to people and they're like, oh my God, it's taking a week. It's taking a month for something big. It's taking so little time now versus, back a few years ago.
Yeah. And I think what's really beautiful about this time, I mean, there's lots of terrible things, don't get me wrong, but one beautiful thing I've noticed is like collectively, I feel like people are starting to look within now on a level that they probably never have in human history. Like the entire world, was more or less shut down at some serious time periods, and we had nothing to do but look at ourselves and take the time. And I feel like that was interesting because, Mother Earth basically sent us all to our rooms. Like, what you doing? Like, you guys are out here just doing the most to me.
Yeah,
go to your room.
I think it's been such a blessing in disguise, because it has put a lot of people, like most people are always using exterior things to always not let them sit with themselves. So they're always out, or they're always partying, they're always drinking, they're always doing something, going out to the movies, going out to dinner, like always doing something, and they don't get a time to just sit down and just reflect in their inner being and sitting with themselves. And I think that and a lot of people that have done that, either they come out better at the end, or they've been like depressed, or they've been understanding that, oh wow, I need to work on this issue, I need to work on this issue. So there's been a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think is so like, it's really powerful. And like so many people now are just so interested in learning, like, okay, I need to learn about myself. I need to think about these things. Like I didn't think about that I was contributing to the world in this way, which I think is really, really beautiful. So, man, what a time period it is.
Yeah, I mean, I have my two daughters, right? I have three girls, but my two daughters are with me. They keep saying everything about manifesting and everything that I have told them throughout the years. They're like, this year has been, he goes, Mom, it's like a trend. Everybody knows about chakras, everybody knows about meditation, and everybody's talking about manifesting. It's like, and I was like, yeah. And I think like a lot of the people have awakened, based on this pandemic too. So it's
Yeah.
been interesting for sure.
I love it. It's so crazy that I'm going to move away from this topic, but I had read this book a few years ago. And in the book, he specifically points to 2020 and he talks about how there's basically going to be two vibrational earths almost. And he says that, on the one hand, there's going to be the, I guess, more shadow version where people are more focused on fear and separation and division and, pain and anger. And then there's going to be the other side, which is like kind of like the new earth, in which people are going to be creating these like very intentional spiritual community. Like they're going to be more focused on love, like more focused on, healing and focused on vibrating higher. And I read this book like, good like 10 years ago. And I was like, he doesn't know, whatever. Like this might be another one of those. And then I like reopened it recently at the beginning of this year. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it is so true. I gotta be honest, and I was saying this to. I just recently did a Sedona journey, and I was telling this to a couple of of the students and that went to the journey, and I said I gotta be completely honest. I was like, this year is probably one of the best years for me, in so many levels, as far as like meeting new people, traveling. I even travel. It's just been a beautiful, beautiful year, and I said, I think a lot of it is also your vibration and what you're saying. I went to the airport, I didn't have a mask on. I sat down and I was with the flight attendant and we spoke and I told her about, the mask and she's like, don't worry about it. When usually you hear all these crazy stories about people not letting you do this or that, it was just like, and one of the students that this always has an issue with like people telling him to put the mask on and all of this, he saw me, he's like, how is it that how he goes, I don't understand how nobody tells you not to put on your mask, or nobody tells you, like, he's like, we're in the airplane and the flight attendant. And I said, I think it's because I said, when you are, let's say, if you are looking at two kids, I said, and you see these two kids doing mischievous stuff, that things that probably they shouldn't be doing, but you see them that they're really not doing any harm to anybody. And they're really just in this space of love and happiness. They're in this level. You don't want to interrupt that because you're having such an enjoyment, And I said, and when you're walking in life and you're just in this heart space and you're just happy and you're just vibrating, it's like when people really want that, they just desire that as well. So some people are just like, you know what, let me just leave her alone, or maybe I'm vibrating at a different level. And I said, and it's all comes within, it's just a different reality versus some other people I hear that they're going through a lot of hardships and they're scared and they're fearful, and and all these things are happening to them. And again, to me, it's all about your wavelength, your alignment, your resonance, your vibration, your energy, everything you say, your heart space, your thoughts. I mean, it's and I think that's the only way we will change the world. I believe if a humanity and they look into their being and observe their negative and the shadow work, and they do the shadow work, they're able to clear that, right? Clear that. So then everything else can come through, and then they can, all that beautiful things that they wish to manifest comes in through, and then it comes and extends out, because as above, so below, as without, so within. So it's just,
I love that. Okay, so speaking of just a couple of things we were talking about, we talked about meditation. I really wanted to talk with you about plant medicine. So I know that you are familiar. So can you give, for our listeners out there that aren't as familiar, can you just tell us a little bit about plant medicine from your perspective?
okay. So plant medicine. Okay, so it's interesting because when I started with plant medicine, it was Mother Ayahuasca that came to me. And I had never really done any plant medicine. I never had done mushrooms. I never had done shrooms or DMT or Alice. None of it. It was
Mhm.
just like Mother Ayahuasca came, and people were laughing when I told them this because they're like, "You mean you never did anything else?" And I was like, "No, I just went straight to source. I just like listen. Let's skip all of this. Let's just get to the point, you know?
Mhm.
Because I have always worked like that. I like taking quantum leaps.
Mhm.
I like okay, I got this. I get it. Let's go to the next level. Okay, this is cool. Okay, let's go to the next level. So for me, it was like I don't want to do baby steps. I want to take quantum leaps. And if Mother Ayahuasca is the mother of all plants,
Mhm.
I just want to go. So I ended up going to the jungle to Peru
Mhm. Oh
for
wow.
about 15 days alone.
Wow. Wait. You went all alone for 15 days to the jungle. Did your family like freak out?
Yes, they did. And usually when you go to this jungle expeditions, you usually have groups or whatever. I didn't have anyone, and there was nobody at the I had like a little tiki bar, a tiki hut, and and the two shamans, and they're like from Cuero. They're the Shipibos, the ayahuasqueros from Peru. They're like the native shamans that have done this for since the beginning of times in Peru. They're very well known. So
Mhm.
I had a female and a male shamans. They were like in their 70s, and I had a little teepee hut, and and then I had to go through a dieta, which is you need to just stay away from
Mhm.
sugar and salt and juice, and you had to be in a very strict diet.
Mhm.
And interesting enough, I wasn't so much scared about taking ayahuasca. I was scared of being in the middle of the jungle with no electricity and no bathroom. Like, oh my God, and my family, they asked me for the address. I said, listen, all I know is I'm arriving to this town and they're picking me up on a boat and taking me to the jungle. And there's no address, there's no such thing. So how are you crazy? How are you doing? I said, listen, I have to. I was willing and I was ready to die
Wow.
in many ways. I said to it was like I really wanted to really do my healing, my inner work, my real shadow work, and clear anything that I needed to clear, because
Mhm.
I was on the path of becoming a teacher, and I was on the path of so I said I want to show up the best version of myself to my students, and in order for me to be able to teach or guide, I have to do the work first and I have to
Mhm.
walk my walk. So
Mhm.
when I did that, I said, okay. So I went and I ended up in the jungle, and I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, this is no joke. This is really. So it was interesting, but yeah, Mother Ayahuasca was the first one that I actually did as a plant medicine, and I was there for 15 days, and it was intense, but it was so cleansing. It was like all the therapy that most people do. I did it in those 15 days with crying and looking at my childhood and looking at the traumas that I went through and understanding the bigger picture of it,
Mhm.
of why it happened,
Mhm.
and just letting she's guiding me and letting me see that at the end everything is just spirit, everything is just consciousness, and these are all just stories,
Mhm.
right? And it's like learning to empty the cup, I guess you can call it, right? And just deprogramming, right? It's not learning anything, it's just shedding all that you have actually put into your psyche, with the social programming and your parents' upbringing,
Mhm.
and how you show up as with your friends, as a coworker, or you put on so many labels and you put on so many masks. And
Mhm.
at the end was just letting go of all those masks so that you can become your authentic self, and shedding all of that, and crying it out and not suppressing anything and just being as transparent as you can be.
Mhm.
So that was an amazing experience for me with Mother Ayahuasca.
Wow. So, and then throughout the 15 days, was it something where like you did it every other day? Like, how many times did you guys go into ceremony? Like, what was the ceremony like? I'm just for the folks out there that are really curious about it and want to understand how it works.
Yeah, so usually you are doing a dieta. So for me, for the first 2 days, it was like a cleansing,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did it every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do baths. So not only are you like doing the whole dieta and you're doing ayahuasca, but they're also showering you with different plants. Uh, and so then whatever negative energy, like cleansing etherically, right? Because you have the astral plane, you have the etherical plane, you have all these different other bodies and levels of your aura. So it's showering you with different plants every other day and cleansing you in every other day. So that's how we did it. We did it every other day. And the place that we did it in, and the hut that we did it, is a special ceremonial space. Usually, there should have been more people participating,
Mm-hmm.
but it so happened that I was the only one at that moment in time, and I was blessed to have the female. And it was interesting because it's usually one shaman that's holding that space,
Mm-hmm.
one maestro that's holding that space and singing the medicine songs, the icaros, that help you travel when you're going through your journey, help you travel. You hear them singing, so
Mm-hmm.
it helps you come back, to understand that you are still under a ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
although you're journeying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was very blessed to have these two shamans, a male and a female, which I felt, now that I look back at it, it's interesting, is that those two energies, the divine feminine and the divine masculine energy, and having him sing one portion and having her sing another portion, and then they both bringing me back to me, bringing it as a like wholeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Putting it all in a circle for me. So it was just very beautiful. I cried a lot. I shed a lot. I wrote a lot. I read a lot. And just being alone with myself was super. And I realized that as a teacher, or as a person of service, you need to do those things. Uh, at least once every 6 months, you need to just go out and be on your own for at least a couple of days, so you can go back into your being and do some self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So ayahuasca was amazing. Yeah. So we did it every other day.
Oh, that's beautiful. And do you feel like when you did this, is this kind of like how you decided or had an awakening moment or a moment knowing like, okay, like this is what I definitely want to do. I want to bring this part into my practice. Is that
Yeah.
around? Okay.
Absolutely. So when I was done with my quest of being in the jungle, when I'm coming back, it's like immediately going into meditation. Now, learning to go into the heart space was amazing for me, because I could just go into my heart space and enter that heart space. And within that heart space, there is a tiny space. That's when there's a connection with like source completely. So there are two spaces in your heart space. They call it the sacred space, and then there's a tiny space. In medicine, science says that when they're doing a heart surgery, there is a special place in within your heart that if they even touch it, you will die instantaneously. Now, we, the teachers, know that this can be the tiny space that we go into in spirit when we go in there. And in there, you connected more in depth with your higher self, with spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So in that space, Mother Earth was telling me that I needed to guide people to
Mm-hmm.
go into to Peru, and to basically do the medicines and do the ceremonies. And I was saying to her, I was like, how? What are you talking about? How am I going to do this? First of all, I don't have a lot of students. Second of all, I had not been in Peru for so many years, and I myself was learning how to navigate the country. And I
Mm-hmm.
ended up going to Lake Titicaca as well, which is one of the chakras of Mother Earth. And Peru. So I ended up going from the jungle to the mountains of Peru
Mm-hmm.
and doing a lot of ceremonies, not ayahuasca ceremony, but sound healers ceremonies over there. And in that space of the Lake Titicaca is known as, let's say, the space where underneath the lake is called Lemuria. part of Lemuria is there. The sun disk came out of this,
Mm.
the skulls came out of.
What's a sun disk?
A sun disk is basically this disk that they gave to two gods that showed up in Peru, which one of them was Viracocha and his wife. And
Mhm.
these gods were, when you actually do your research and do your history, it was Thoth that left Egypt.
Oh, got it, got it, got it. Okay, got
Okay,
it.
so then this sun disk was given, and this sun disk was a portal.
Mhm.
It was a portal of the gods that
Mhm.
higher dimensional beings can come in through this sun disk. And not only would this was a portal, but also it gives you upgrades of DNA and gives you knowledge and wisdom. And this sun disk actually belongs to one of the pyramids of Giza. So it's just a whole, esoteric wisdoms of Lemuria and Atlantis and
Mhm.
mixed together. So I was there as well. So I was doing my sound healing and just connecting to the land. And I said, I really don't know how I am gonna put together groups to come to Peru and just do Machu Picchu and do Lake Titicaca and do plant medicine ceremonies and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And shortly enough, when I came back from Peru, my mom had told me that she was going to Peru and she was going to meet with some man that she had heard of, that he was like a shaman, a maestro over there that knew not only the spiritual side, but also knew all the sacred. So I
Mhm.
asked her, I said, really? She says, yeah. She says, I have a good feeling about him. My mom also is very intuitive. So I was like, okay.
Okay. Mhm.
And she connected me to him, and that was more than 7 years ago. And me and him started doing journeys together because he knew more of the sacred sites in
Mhm.
Peru more in depth,
Mhm.
and I was just bringing the shamanic and my meditations and my teachings of the esoteric. And so it was just, he was been my soul brother, and we actually we realized that we had been done this in other times together. So with him we traveled together, and we're still doing it. I mean, it's been amazing. But I just put it out there to the universe. I said, I opened up an Instagram, I opened up a Facebook, and I said, listen, I'm doing retreats. I'm doing what I've done to help me advance in my journey. And
Mhm.
I'm going to just give it to you in a silver platter. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, great as well. There's 1,000 ways to get to the top of the mountains. There's just not one way,
Yeah.
right? And people started coming, and it was just word of mouth. It was like word of mouth. And it's been a beautiful journey. So one of my manifestations when I was in my heart space was to assist humanity in healing,
Mhm.
but also I want to have fun and travel the
Mhm.
world. So
Yeah.
I'm getting to do that. I get to travel and I get to have fun and go on adventures to
Oh,
different.
I love that. That's so beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about these retreats that you do. So like do they always have ayahuasca? Do you sometimes use other plant medicines? Like do are there particular areas that you focus on just so, and if anyone's looking for a retreat, they'll have an idea of how you do it.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that usually come to my retreats are people already that have done my Awaken Illuminated Heart workshop. So my Awaken Illuminated Heart workshop consists of entering the heart space, activating your Merkaba, activating the beams of light. So these beams of lights that you have around your head, the Mayans gave this to Drumbelow Melchizedek. They say that at the age of 13, these beams make you become more psychic and make you become more, it's like activating your pineal gland kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave these teachings to Drumbelow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the Merkaba is your light body.
Mm-hmm.
The chariots of gods, they call it in the Bible. So it's your light body, your vehicle of ascension. So
Mm-hmm.
they gave these teachings to Drumbelow as well. So a lot of the people that have come to my retreats, they actually do come from my Awaken Illuminated Heart workshops, my students, that they love it. They love the workshop. They feel like, and it's a lot about healing and emotional trauma cleansing. A
Mm-hmm.
lot about like not letting your heart be closed, but letting it open up. So in order for your heart to be open up, you gotta do a lot of shadow work. So we do a lot of shadow work in this workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the people from that workshop, they end up coming to the retreats. So what happens is that, let's say if I'm doing retreats I'm doing Awaken Illuminated Heart in Florida and in Virginia and California and different parts of the states,
Mhm.
what happens is that when they come together to come to Peru, they
Mhm.
don't know each other,
Yeah.
but they all know how to get into the heart space, and
Yeah.
they all done the cleansing and the cleaning. So it's so beautiful because everybody is in that space of love,
Mhm.
of oneness, of awareness of the ego,
Mhm.
right? So then you are having this retreat, but then everybody's already in this magical space. Your
Mhm.
vibration is in this magical space. So then the whole retreat is very magical. And sometimes, let's say if we do Peru, definitely doing ayahuasca. I only have done my ayahuasca over there in Peru,
Mhm.
and with the maestro that I work with over there, I found a beautiful place to hold these special ceremonies, and this it's just magical. This space over there, and
I'm
the
guessing it has a toilet.
this one, it's so interesting because it's not in the jungle, it's actually in the mountains in the Andes of Peru.
Mhm.
Because I was telling when I was doing this in the jungle of Peru, I said not everybody's ready for this. Not everybody really, like we are so spoiled, right? So I
Yeah.
said not everybody's ready to not have light. Not
Yeah.
everybody's ready to walk outside in the middle of the jungle, right, to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not everybody is ready to be in that space of, oh, it was so rugged and so raw, so so just and primal, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's ready. So the place that I found in the Pisac in the Andes of Peru is just a beautiful temple. It's just a beautiful temple with the flower of life, and there's just this beautiful vibe, and it has 5 bathrooms right there in case you need it. And the music that's played in completely total darkness is like a 12-person band, and they
Wow.
guide in complete total darkness and in giving you, and the way they so it I had such a beautiful experience in that place because I did it first, of course,
Mhm.
and they held, like, they take care of you if you're going through something. They're
Yeah.
there to hold that beautiful space with you. Versus the jungle, it's like the shaman is gonna sing, but they're not holding your hand. They're not, they're not. They're saying you go through it, and you need to go through it, and it's very primal.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
space is more like, we got you. We're
Yeah.
holding this space for you. We love you. We're here for you. We're gonna take care of you. So I that's where we do our ayahuasca ceremonies.
Oh.
And then the people that want to go deeper and just want to go deep, 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 then we'll do the jungle. But but that's not for everybody. And
Oh.
I think that that's a great way to start for a lot of people. It's just
Mhm.
to be in a more space of love, and people holding space for one another, and that you're safe. You know that you're okay, that you will be protected no matter what. Versus the jungle, it's more of like, listen, you're on your own, and you need to just go through this on your own.
Yeah.
Many times in the jungle, when they finished the ceremony, they were like, okay, we're done with the ceremony. The shamans were like, we're done with. Next thing you know, I'm in my bedroom, and I'm still going through it by myself. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
nobody's there, and I had to just work through it on
Yeah.
my own. So yeah, so that's the space that I usually do my retreats when it's in Peru,
Mhm.
and we do Machu Picchu,
Mhm.
and we do fire ceremonies, we do sun ceremonies, we do water ceremonies. So
Mhm.
we do all these beautiful sacred sites, and we do a lot of cleansing and clearing
Mhm.
before your ayahuasca ceremony. So when
Mhm.
you get to your ayahuasca ceremony, you already been in Peru for, like, let's say 4 or 5 days, cleansing and clearing and visiting all these beautiful sacred sites,
Mhm.
and you're in your heart space,
Mhm.
right? And then you do ayahuasca, so your experience is even more loving, or more amazing. You're still gonna shed and you're still gonna cry, but you're in a different level than when you landed in Peru, based on
Mhm.
those cleansing and cleaning that you do the first couple of days,
Oh, I
right?
love
So
that.
that's how we do Peru. And then when I also did Sedona, and I did Sedona in the beginning of my journeys, when by myself as well. And I did a lot of hiking and trekking in Sedona, and
Mhm.
got a lot of downloads, and a lot of it's actually where my Kundalini activated was in Sedona.
Mhm.
So I do trips there, but I don't do ayahuasca ceremonies. The energy of Sedona, it's so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Those red rocks are so intense that they can either hug you or spit you out. You know, it's either it's not for everybody. A lot of people love it. I personally love it, but I do a temazcal there, which is a sweat lodge by indigenous native Sedona native who's actually world renowned now. That he's become very very famous in YouTube, and people have interviewed him.
Mm-hmm.
He was my dear friend a couple of years ago when I went by myself, and he did a sweat lodge for me, and I loved it. So the sweat lodge, it's also like a plant medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not, it's just you and mine, and you sweating, and you're actually, doing prayers and chanting and drumming,
Mm-hmm.
and letting go and giving everything that doesn't serve you anymore, and burn it and giving to the grandfather fire, letting that all that no longer serves you, give it to the fire. And that's another sort of cleansing and clearing in a mystical way, without journeying. And I seen people, it's like everybody comes out of there, they're like, this is like an ayahuasca journey. This is just like a plant medicine journey. And I said, I know, but it's just you and being connected to the spirit of the fire, and just mind over matter, because you're there and you're sitting there and you're sweating and you're like, oh my God, I can't breathe. So you start realizing how your thoughts, you become observant of your thoughts, because it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder. And you're like, holy smokes, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? And then at the end, it's like you shut down the brain, and you're just in this lotus position, and you're just in meditation. And then anything that you feel, anything that's heartbreaking, anything that it's just showing up, and you give it to the spirit of the fire.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'd never heard them described that way before.
Oh yeah, yeah. The sweat lodges that we do, it's always directed to the north, south, west, and east, and there's prayers, for each, and then earth, or the Father Sky, and then Mother Earth, and then there's prayers, and then you want to set your intentions, and you want to set prayers. So there's a round, and in each round, you have your prayers, you have your intentions, or what is it that you want to let go, who do you want to bless, what is it that you want for humanity, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful experience.
I love that. Wow. And then what about mushrooms or any other type of plant medicine?
So it's so interesting, because now that that's how I ended up holding ceremonies. So a lot of people have asked me, when would I be holding ayahuasca ceremonies? And for me, ayahuasca ceremonies, for me, it's really intense, ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I want to spend more time in the jungle, at least 2 or 3 months before I come out and hold that space. Even though I've done ayahuasca, I don't remember how many times, and I'm always holding that space when I take my groups and assisting with mushrooms. Mushroom was completely totally different, because I decided to do mushroom one day. Again, I feel that every plant medicine in the world, every plant medicine, let it be mushrooms or cannabis or ayahuasca or chamomile, anything, it's just sacred. And I always seen these plants as sacred, because they're always assisting you in one way, either to alleviate you in any diseases or illnesses, or giving you more in-depth awareness in your emotional traumas or mental programming. So I always uh, saw them as just very sacred.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I was with my boyfriend, who I am now, and he says, "Have you ever done mushrooms?" And I said, "No, I never done them." And he says, "Well, listen." He goes, would you like to try them?" I said, "You know what? Okay, I'll do." So he says to me, "Okay." He goes, "So we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. We're gonna you're gonna take this much and I'm gonna take this much." And I was like, "Okay, I have no idea how to do this." I
Mm-hmm.
said, "But one thing I do know is that it has to be done sacredly and it has to be done ceremonial. So before we
Yeah.
do anything, I need to put it in my altar, and I need to think to them, and I need to send my intention to
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing. And I need to have my music ready, because I know with ayahuasca. So I treated it like if it was a ceremony with ayahuasca. And that's how I treated the mushrooms at that first time that I took them. And I have to have my intention. And then at that moment in time, this was like 5 years ago, at that moment in time, I wanted to set the intention of helping the divine feminine. And I remember setting that intention. I said, I want to know more about the divine feminine. Tell me how I can navigate through that. How can I assist my sisters? I said, because we have been so divided for so long. It's like it's just not healthy. And I know that deep down in the core of everything, that's not who we are. But I want you to show me. And it was the most amazing experience when I took the mushrooms. When it instantaneously transported me into the beginning of Earth. Earth
Wow.
was not even touched. It was just, and the spirit of cannabis came forward and bowed down and said, "It is an honor to be within you." All the plants, like ayahuasca, mushroom, they were just, "It's an honor to be within you. It's an honor to be." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's an honor that you guys are here, even showing up. Who the hell am I?" It was just so beautiful. And as I continue walking, I saw this little hut, and and something told me, you need to go inside this little hut. And when I walked in, there were 5 women, and in the middle of this, and they were in a circle. In the middle of the circle, they were like moving like a big pot.
Wow.
That you wanted to know the beginning of the divine feminine, come look. And they were, you're gonna, I never told this out, I never told this, but this is what they said to me. They were showing me how they were mixing the chromosomes of the XY and to create men, planet of only women. So I said, they would never believe this. I said, they would never believe this. They said, we give birth through intention only. We get pregnant, and we only have girls. And we want to create the first man. This is why a man is always first a woman in a fetus. They were just giving me downloads after down, and I'm like, holy! I was like, they will never believe this. And I remember, like, and then my boyfriend, I'm going through this journey. I hear everything talk to me, like my hair is talking to me, and I'm just going through deep while, and I'm getting all this information. And all I kept remembering was saying, Evelyn, you need to remember this when you leave this journey. You need to write this down. This is deep information. And I was just mesmerized about all the information and all the intel that I got of the divine feminine of Earth, of Mother Earth, of her soul contract, Mother Earth's soul contract, connecting to Mother Earth higher spirit, the sun. It was just amazing. I did it a couple of more times, and then the spirit said, listen, it's time for you to hold ceremony. I said, no, I don't want to. No, yes, you have to. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm ready. And they were like, you're ready, and we're gonna be there with you. So it was a year-long process for me to accepted to that, that the plant wanted me to hold sacred space for other people. And that's how I ended up saying, okay, yes. And I again took it very seriously, and I understand that when you are going through these spaces, you're opening up portals. Opening up portals. And that's why it has to be, you have to be so careful when choosing a shaman or choosing a maestro, doing any type of plant medicines, mushrooms or ayahuasca, especially because you're opening up portals, and that person has to be sovereign enough not to let anything else come in.
Yeah. You're the gatekeeper.
You're the gatekeeper. Yeah. And believe me, Sarah can tell you, it's work.
I heard. And I was like, oh, I'm so bummed I missed it, but don't worry. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's intense work.
I feel like I need to do it by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's a lot of intense work, and for me, it's just like, wow, this is intense work just on mushrooms, and imagine Anaya. And so I decided to, a lot of the people that come to my mushroom ceremonies, they're chosen in a way that I know that they've done a lot of work on themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it's always very important for me for them to do a lot of work in themselves, that they're already going in there with a lot of the people that go in there, they're only going there not so much to heal, but to gather more information. Because if you actually study the nature of mushrooms, one of the pioneers that brought this was Maria Sabina from Mexico in the 1950s,
Mhm.
1960s. And then this man from Harvard did a studies on mushrooms and went and did mushrooms with her. So
Mhm.
she grew up. She became very famous, and a lot of the people that you hear nowadays, like they say, Walt Disney went over there to her, and that's how he came back with Alice in Wonderland. I mean,
Wow.
all this people that became famous or invented something, they actually did it through psychedelics that
Mhm.
was brought to them.
Yeah. They say Steve Jobs did acid and saw the iPhone, which is,
Exactly.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So if you actually do a lot of your research, these plant medicines not only are there to heal you, but they also are there to bring inventions. To if you target something, if you want something specifically, they'll find a way to share this with you. So the more use it as sacred,
Mhm.
more it will give to you. So I'm very big on that. I'm very big on that. So that's how I started my mushroom ceremonies. And believe me, I done a lot that I can say, it's beautiful, but for me personally, holding the space is very important, and being sovereign, like I said, being sovereign and being in the heart space is huge,
Yeah.
because again, your vibration, your energy field, it's
Mhm.
protecting the space,
Mhm.
right? So that's super important as well.
I love that. Wow. This is so awesome, Evelyn. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and magic with us today. So, before we go, here at the Magic Hour, we always ask a few feed your soul questions. So, three actually. And I just love to hear more about like how beautiful healers like you make sure that you're taking care of yourself spiritually and emotionally. And I think learning about your practices always is super helpful. So, the first question is: are there any consistent activities or rituals that you do to maintain a sense of inner peace?
Yes. I would say meditation.
Mhm.
I don't sit down and meditate per se, but I think
Mhm.
life is a meditation, right?
Mhm.
So being present in the moment, it's important for me.
Mhm.
Also, I love taking care of my altar. So
Mhm.
like every day I will put a light on my altar, and having that altars change when you are in this spiritual path. A lot of us have altars, and some altars have your ancestors, others has your teachers or whatnot. And my altar has been this big to this big to now is like this big, and you have your crystals and certain things. So for me personally,
Mhm.
I used to, on my path, on my spiritual path, 7 years ago, I will have crystals. I will have I will have sage. I will have Palo Santo, which I still do. Which I still
Mhm.
do. So one of the biggest things that I do is I light up my altar every day,
Mhm.
and I sage.
Mhm.
I Palo Santo.
Mhm.
I use incense. Also putting on, for me, some people use mantras. I use Icaros. So having that routine, believe it or not, it's just second nature to me at this point.
Mhm.
But if you actually start looking at it, not everybody is putting medicine songs and mantras and saging or using Palo Santo or incense every other day or every
Mhm.
day and lighting up an altar, right? So
Mhm.
fire for me is very important in keeping in
Mhm.
that little flame of fire. I think it cleanses the energy. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I would say. It's having an altar and maintaining it and understand, because your altar, let's say for your altar, for me, is like, let's say when you walk into your house,
Mhm.
and your house is really nice and you feel comfortable, it's your temple. But when you step into your altar, you get close to your altar, you have this connection of
Yeah.
this higher vibration that you
Yeah.
it's just special place. So I
Yeah.
think that you do that once a day, and you tune into that little space as,
Yeah.
as little as possible. It changes your frequency, and then you go back.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
love that.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
I
think that
totally
that's
love.
important for those that are starting their practice. I think that starting an altar, it's important, just so that you can have a space where you can just tune yourself into, to remind you that you are one with the universe, that you are a divine being. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I have two altars that I'm just like they're different purposes, but like I definitely feel that like when you step into that space, like it's almost like you feel different. It's sacred. So I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so when it comes to self-development, what are the books or tools that really offered life-changing discoveries? So I know you're a reader and you mentioned a ton of books. So like if you could just reiterate a couple of them for us, and also if there were any books you didn't get to mention that were really very profound in your life.
Yeah, so I will say in the beginning of my practice, for those who are listening and are just starting their practices, I will be the four agreements that we talked about. That really did magic for me, because I was like, oh my God, the four agreements: do not assume, don't take things personally, always do your best, and I forget the last one. But it just puts you in perspective. It's like, wow, you know. So I would advise for people to read the Four Agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz. Another book that I loved was Byron Katie works. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Um, she does this. It's called I forget. Heal, but it was just so many years ago. But I know you could look her up. Her name is
Mm-hmm.
Byron Katie, and
Mm-hmm.
she does this thing about work. And again, it's about shadow work,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of it is shadow work that we have to do for us to be able to move forward. And when we don't do the shadow work, you know, it limits us to continue moving up forward. Another book, Byron Katie. Another book I would say that changed me completely, and this was when I was doing shadow work and all that stuff. Wayne Dyer is also amazing.
Yeah.
I love his work. And Louise Hay, Heal Your Body.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that everything, ease or any physical illnesses that you have, first are an emotional trauma, right? Or a mental programming. So a lot of people don't know this, but if you're not working on your, or if you're not working on your emotional traumas or your mental programming, and these traumas and programmings don't serve you, this energy gets stuck into your body and becomes an illness.
Mm-hmm.
So healing that, it's super important. And Louise Hay has a book called Heal Your Body, which you will look up your disease, and then she will tell you what emotional trauma caused that disease, and then the affirmation for it, and then going back into that moment in time to heal that is important. And this comes into soul retrievals or fragmented souls. So going back into that moment in time, in your meditations, to forgive and ask for forgiveness is super important. And also become aware of what caused that trauma and what's still lingering from that trauma on your everyday life. And ultimately, I guess what, after I done all of that stuff, and then I went back into the esoteric teachings, I would say the ancient secret of the flower of life was huge for me. Uh, Also, living in the heart was huge for me, because at the end I realized that everything was all about the heart space. And as many workshops as I've gone to, and so many teachers that I have listened to and read, it all comes back to being in the heart space. It all comes back into learning who you are and being true to you, to your inner voice, your gut feeling. Authenticity is key. So I mentioned all of those, and I mentioned the Tibetan Book of the Dead was also a. Then if you want to, it depends if you want to go esoteric or you want to do shadow work. I mean, there's so many books for difference. When you do going into holographic universe, or you want to do quantum.
Oh, I need to get just a list of books from you. I'm gonna have you send me your list of books and I'll put it on the show notes. There's so many, and these are all fantastic ones.
Yeah, I love sacred geometry. So at the end of all these teachings and working with angels and higher selves and all these other teachers, it all came down for me. The heart space and sacred geometry was huge. So for that, I would mention Warbridger by Juliet Carter, and she is amazing. And her book is not such an easy read.
Mm.
She uses like words that you're like, wait, I have to reread this again. But it's all about sacred geometry, and how sacred geometry, it's everything like the flower of life, the dodecahedrons, the icosahedrons, the platonic solids, and how these are within you. So when you are activating your DNA, looking at this sacred geometry does something in your inner being. I went to Glastonbury and I did a whole 10-day workshop on this, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I love that. Okay, and then my final question is more of a fun one. Do you have any favorite movies that always revive your spirit?
Of course, The Matrix.
That's a good one.
I'm like, even when I still see it, I'm like, I'm still hooked on this movie. Even when I wasn't even on the spiritual path, I love The Matrix. I love The Notebook.
Yeah.
It's a love story. I love love stories. Um, what other movies? I would say The Matrix, The Notebook, Avatar. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many of them. I mean, like, oh my goodness, I love now. We watch all everything that has to do with consciousness.
Yeah.
Interstellar. I
Yes,
love
that one gave me some crazy dreams. Every time I watch it, I had the most intense dreams.
Yeah, when you look into like Interstellar, Inception, Lucy,
Mhm.
Scarlett
Mhm.
Johansson. I was a great, everything becomes consciousness, and she was like, oh my god, it's a
Yeah.
great movie. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Evelyn. Again, this was just a magical chat. So, can you tell our listeners how they can follow you on your adventures?
Yes, they can go into in1heart.com. Um, I'll be right there, and I also have my Instagram in one heart or just different. JUSTDIFFRNT. So I didn't put the E's. So it's just different without the E's. And yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. So, thank you everyone for tuning into the Magic Hour. We hope you enjoyed listening. Please be sure to check out the show notes over at mylittlemagicshop.com for more information on today's guest, Evelyn. We hope to see you next Sunday. And as always, sending you so much light, love, and magic. And remember, without a dream, you can't have a dream come true. So make sure you're out there making your own magic.